Welcome to another episode of the $100 Challenge, where I'll make the best available gaming collection for $100, this time for the Super Nintendo. I've come here today asking for almost a 30% valuation for just one single game. Are you out of your mind? No, hold on a second, Kevin. I'll take that deal. It's still worth every penny. The first game on our list is Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. One of the very best entries of one of the very best gaming series of all time. Link to the Past took everything that made the original entry great and improved upon it. Bright, varied graphics? Check. Amazing soundtrack? Check. Interesting puzzles and cool dungeons? Check. Flawless physics engine and engaging combat? Check. Well, you get the idea. The game was, and still is, a joy to play through. Look, I've got my fair share of Mario hot takes. Lost Levels is a good game. Toad is the best character in the series. And notably, Super Mario Bros. 3 is the best side-scrolling 2D Mario. But I'm not an idiot, at least not completely, and so I'm not leaving Super Mario World off my $100 challenge list for the Super Nintendo. Coming in at $17.83, the launch title is a game that is so often mentioned as one of the all-time greatest, across all genres, platforms, and eras, and that's for good reason. What's more, it's a perfect example of a game that has aged just like a fine wine. Still just as fun to play today as it was when it released 3 decades ago. It's hard for me to reminisce about the 16-bit era without thinking about the fighting game craze that took over the industry in the early 90s. And sitting at the head of that table, at 1666, was Street Fighter II Turbo. This is a must-have for me, and Turbo is my personal favorite version. Sure, the nostalgia is strong. I remember playing round after round with my dad, mashing buttons and talking trash. I remember all the Nintendo Power issues, detailing the fighter's strengths and weaknesses, abilities, and their lore. But much like Mario World, Street Fighter II makes the list because underneath all the flash is an immensely solid game that holds up incredibly well today. Who's your favorite fighter? Mine's Vega. Another classic 16-bit series are EA's NHL games. 94 is the most beloved, and still has an active online community with modded versions of the game. I played 95 a bit more as a child, but 96's market value is the lowest at just $4.09. And much like today's yearly sequels, there isn't a ton of difference between them, so 96 is the one we're choosing here. Mashing up easily accessible arcade mayhem with a solid physics engine foundation, it was easy to get addicted to these games, especially if you're playing with a friend, and especially as a hockey fan, though this one's evergreen enough to appeal to everyone. At its heart, a puzzle game, Goof Troop is a notable departure from other licensed games of the 80s and 90s, the vast majority of which are action platformers. For 1231, where this game really shines is the 2-player simultaneous co-op, where one player controls Goofy and the other his son Max, from a Goofy movie, which is regarded as one of the greatest feature films of all time, right up there with The Godfather and Citizen Kane, only with more cheese whiz. Maliciously maligned by Miyamoto, he basically said the game was pretty but had bad gameplay. Donkey Kong Country sold like bananas anyway, and has gone on to be a highly revered series. If only I had $7 more to make it DKC too. But the first is where it all started, and definitely worth the $19.25 price tag to fill out the final spot on the list. The stages are memorable, the music is fantastic, and the boss battles are fun, proving this one has more under the hood than just a pretty presentation. And with our total up to $98.58, that completes the Super Nintendo list. It's a great collection in my mind, but okay, listen, I've got to come clean. Neither of my 2 favorite SNES games are on the list. Why? Well, simple. Because if you want an original copy of Chrono Trigger, loose cartridge only, you're looking at just shy of $200. So that one's automatically disqualified. Lucky for us though, this game is available easily on many other platforms. If you've never played it before, and are even a little bit of a fan of JRPGs or storytelling in games, you owe it to yourself to check this one out. The game captivated me on my first playthrough, which was actually on the PS1, and and remains one of my very, very favorites to this day. Second is Super Mario RPG, which cost $86.46. Another one of my favorites of all time. It just didn't feel right bumping almost everything else of top quality off this list just for one entry. One 10 out of 10 game and some shovelware isn't going to cut it when there's so many classics for about $20 each. Sorry, Mallow. Tetris Attack at 1886 nearly made the list too. An addicting puzzle game with a fun multiplayer component. It's not really Tetris, but it is fun.
Isn't what we like us? Then what?
I know. You just do.
The original SimCity is perhaps the most recognizable early sim game of them all, and Nintendo themselves worked on this excellent port of the PC classic. However, without a mouse, it's tough to argue it earns a spot on the list, even though it is only $8.82. Mega Man X nearly made the cut as well, but at almost $29, I didn't have it in my heart to bump anything off in its place. And finally, shoutouts to American Gladiators. Is it a good game? No, not really, but it is $1.86. Hope you enjoyed the video. How'd I do? Feel free to let me know in the comments, and hopefully, I'll see you in our next installment. The
Sega Genesis.